Bumming with Bob. Let's have a few brews. We'll have some fun with the bum wine crew. So kick your feet up and grab you a beer. 'Cause damn, man, I'm glad that you're here.
All right. This is Bumwine Bob welcoming you to an all-new edition of Bumming with Bobcat. And joining the show this week, he is a indie comic writer, screenwriter. He's a guy who enjoys a cold beer or two. And I also found out he's searching for the perfect egg salad sandwich. That jives with me. He is the one and only. He's Mr. Eric Borden. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, Bob. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time coming on the podcast here this week. And yeah, I was like, so are you an egg salad connoisseur?
Absolutely. 100%, man. It's the perfect sandwich, you know. It's breakfast, it's lunch. You can eat it anytime for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people give egg salad a lot of hate for some reason. I don't know why. I've always been a big egg salad fan, but people just don't like. I get it, but I'm with you on the egg salad. That's why I saw that and I was like, I like what this guy's head's at. We're on the same wavelength already, so it's only uphill from here.
Yeah, man, I get it too. It's one of those things. Like I get it. It's pedestrian. You know, it's egg salad. It doesn't get simpler, but you know, there's so many ways to put a wrinkle on it. The bread. You know, how do you season it? Do you add onions or not? There's so many ways to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how crazy do you want to get with your egg salad? And well, I mean, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll dive deeper into it as the podcast goes on.
Okay.
But I know personally, I'm feeling a little parched over here and a little thirsty. So I was about to crack open a cold one. So I don't know. What are you drinking over there tonight?
You know, I went with the tried and true. We're going back to the day. I went with the Steel Reserve this evening.
Oh, all right. The classic. Yeah, I'm classing it up a little bit just because I think we need to have more banquets. And I got a regular Coors banquet beer that I'm going to be cracking open here tonight because I saw it. I was doing my usual scanning of the cooler at the liquor store, trying to pick out the right one. And that bright gold Coors can was just kind of staring me at the face, like that gold bar leading you to it in the movies. And I was like, all right, we got to go banquet here tonight. So I'm going to crack open this bad boy.
Sounds good. I'll do the same.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a Steel Reserve. I'll tell you that. You know, as I've gotten a little older, I've classed it up myself. Not much, but at least a little bit. Yeah.
Every once in a while, I think it was a few weeks back, I picked up a 40 of Steel Reserve, and I was like, yeah, you know, why not? For $2.49 for a 40, I was like, all right, I'll take that any day of the week.
100%, it's a bargain.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly, especially. Now, is that a tall boy can you got there or a regular can?
Yeah, we went with the tall boy for sure.
I was going to say, because, I mean, you can get a 12-pack of, 12-ounce cans of Steel Reserve. It's like $7-8, if that, depending on where you are. So, I mean, it's really, if you're drinking on a budget, the Steel Reserve is the way to go. The 8%, it will get you good buzz.
Yeah, well, I think the experience comes with, letting it get to that right level of warmth as it takes you to work through it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows that. Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. When it's like, okay, when you start drinking it, it's nice and cold. You're like, all right, it's not bad. And then you get about 3/4 of the way through it. It starts to warm up there, especially you get one of those hot days. You're outside drinking it. You're like, all right, let me pound this guy down quick.
Oh, yeah. Definitely speeds the equation up for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely you start drinking on the fast lane at that point. Yeah, so I mean, what's your go-to drinks? I mean, what do you usually drink on a regular basis?
Man, I tell you, I'm one of those guys who's moved into the IPA region, and I was never an IPA guy. I spent a lot of years in the restaurant industry. that's a natural thing for a writer to get into because it gives you that time and stuff like that. But, I had the good fortune. I lived in Atlanta for a short period of time and naturally took a job at a business that had 100 taps, wanted to learn more about beer, kind of round out my knowledge in that industry and stuff like that. So I started working in a place with 100 taps. My boss at that point was a beer aficionado. I mean, how can you not be when you're running the joint? And so he, he had a wealth of knowledge, and man, that guy was like, he was the guru of that sort of thing. And, I told him IPAs are all the rage, right, in beer today. So everybody's making it with, you name it, they got it.
Oh yeah. You want everything. You want extra hops, this, that. To throw it all in there.
6 types of hops, whatever. But man, this guy was like, he just reached in. I said, I don't like IPA, so whatever. He's like, no, try this. And man, I'll be telling you, as far as gateway drugs go, that first one he tasted me on, he's like, this is the IPA for guys who don't like IPAs. And after that, like I said, it was the gateway drug. I just kept moving, and that was Creature Comforts, which is out of Atlanta, Georgia. Creature Comforts did a Tropicalia, which is absolutely amazing. And so that kind of opened me up to that experience, which was cool. And yeah, now I'm one of those guys who likes that skunky.
You're that IPA. You like to drink that extra hoppy pine cone.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you, Bob, I never would have thought I was that guy. There's no question. I was like, I do not like them. Period. The end. And man, he showed me that one, offered me some other ones, and it just kind of stepped it up from there. So like I said, man, when it's that gateway drug, that was it. So yeah, now I'm trying Imperials and everything else, but it'll get you there quick, man.
Well, right. I was gonna ask you, are you one of the high ABV IPA drinkers? Like you'll go for like that 9-10% IPA?
I'll definitely do it, man. But you don't want to get too many of those on you. It has a funny way of doing it. You drink a few beers, sure, you're 6, 7, 8%. That's fine. But you get something in the 9.9 range, you have 3 of those, and you turn the corner a lot faster.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I was saying. Is the higher ABVs, you have 2 or 3 of those, and then you're out. You're done for the night.
Yeah. Oh yeah, or you're way ahead of everybody else. That's for sure.
Right. Right. It's a trade-off. It depends. Okay. It depends on what's your plan for the evening. Are you planning on like day drinking, going all night, or is it already 9:00 and you're just kind of having a few and just kind of capping the night off? It's a trade-off of, okay, what's your plans? That's where you have to think about your drinking for the day. Okay, I have to plan accordingly, because I've had some buddies who are big IPA fans and always tried to get me into them, and I'd try them, and they were just never for me. I'll drink some here and there, but it's definitely not on the top of my list. And I remember back in the day, doing some like afternoon barbecues, and my buddy will show up with whatever the 8-9% IPA is, and he has like the big bottle, not a growler size, but it's like maybe like a 24-ounce bottle, and he like starts drinking it, and then by like 6 o'clock at night, he's laying on the couch.
He's shot.
That's like, and we're still outside hanging out, drinking, having a good time. It's like, dude, you got to pick and choose where you bring those IPAs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, but like you said, there's so many of them that you can really go down that rabbit hole of trying out different ones. So I guess, like you said, it really is a gateway drug too. More. I mean, I like trying out different beers and different craft beers, not more of the IPAs, but if you get me some of the lagers or things like that, I'm more on board with that, and the wheat beers. But I'll try them out and just see how they fare. But it's not something I'm going to really go to and say, okay, where's that IPA? I need it.
Yeah, no, I was the same for a very long time. But yeah, once my eyes got open to the fact, now I'm that guy who goes looking for it. So, but the beauty of it is, and here's the beauty of it. Like you bring a 6 or a 12 pack somewhere, and nobody else wants it. So you're flying solo missions everywhere, which is a beautiful thing. Nobody's drinking your beer.
That's true. And you can most of the time you can accomplish the same thing bringing a a 12-pack of Steel Reserve with you, most people are not going to pick that one up either. That's why I show up somewhere with even like a Colt 45 or something, and my buddies like our 4th of July weekend, I had probably it was just a little 4-pack of like the 16-ounce cans that I picked up.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, we're really doing the Colt 45 today?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing the Colt 45. If you want to have one, feel free. If not, more for me." So
absolutely.
So hey, don't hate it, man. Don't be a hater.
Nah, well, go back to your roots. I mean, ain't that where everybody starts? Let's be honest. It's where everybody starts, right?
Exactly. And that's what I say all the time. We go through, we embrace the bottom shelf, the cheap booze, the stuff that's the college, high school drinking days of the stuff you started out with. I mean, who didn't go to parties and with the Natty Light or Keystone Light or whatever, or the Milwaukee's Best, the Beast. I mean, there's, I mean, like don't try to fool anybody. You drank this stuff. It's just I'm out here now, still drinking it and embracing the culture and trying to spread the good word to the people of saying, hey, there's still a time and a place for this. I mean, you can drink your IPAs all you want, but sometimes you want to get in there. You want to get that Steel Reserve and just kind of a little nostalgia to take you back.
Yeah, it's just good to get down with. When I stopped tonight to pick it up, I almost went all the way back to the roots with I started like most people with OE 800, Old English.
Mm-hmm.
That was the number one, and I used to extol the virtues of charcoal filtering to people and stuff like that. Believe me, obviously, but yeah.
People got to embrace it, man. That's what we're here for, to spread the word and tell them to try it out. Now, I'm sure. Now, have you traveled down the bum wine road in the past too, with the MD 2020, Night Train, Thunderbird, Cisco, all that stuff?
Absolutely, man. And then I had a buddy named Robert, and when we were in those days, we used to go to the cash and carry. Hopefully this doesn't get me in trouble. We were kids, so you go in and you shoplift the MD 2020 off the shelf and stuff like that. And there were woods behind the cash and carry, so you used to have to, if you made the corner and jumped the fence, you were good because they're not going to follow you into the woods.
Yeah.
But my buddy Robert swore by Manischewitz, like that was his go-to. I was like, man, are you Jewish? And he's like,
yeah.
He's like, I'm like, well, how did you get hooked up with Manischewitz? And he's like, nah, man, it was one of those things, and that was his drink of choice. I couldn't get on board, but
it's always right. It's always right there next to it. I mean, when you go into the store and you're looking for the bum wine, you search for the Manischewitz, and when you find that, okay, if they're gonna have it in stock, it's gonna be right there next to it.
Place.
You're in the right spot. It's between the Manischewitz and the Arbor Mist is really where you find like the MD 2020 or a Wild Irish Rose or something like that. That you're looking for will be right in that sweet spot right there.
Oh yeah.
But still, yeah. Hey, at that time, man, you do what you got to do. A long time has passed since then, so I don't think they're going to come after you now for taking the MD 2020.
Probably not.
Yeah.
They've written that off a few decades ago, probably by now.
Yeah, but hey, it's the fun of it. Like I said, it's all the bottom shelf, the cheap stuff that people grew up with, and you just gotta embrace it, man. There's a time, like I had a party a couple weeks ago. My friend was like, "Okay, do you have any like we had just regular beer, wine, around?" And my buddy's like, "Hey, do you have any whiskey or anything like that?" And I'm like, I didn't have any on hand. And I'm like, well, I do have some MD 2020 in the fridge. And he's like, all right, screw it. So broke out the MD 2020, had a little the golden pineapple, the newest kid on the block, and then the orange jubilee MD 2020. Had them separate first. They were mixing them together, and they're like, this stuff isn't that bad. I'm like, guys, look, I've been telling you this for years.
Right.
It's not as bad as you make it out to be. And people, there's a time and a place for it. And if you really want to get that buzz going, it's right there for you.
Well, see, and I think your friend's decision speaks volumes about what that situation really is, man. It's any port in a storm, right? Like you're at a party, you're chilling, you have the opportunity to go a few different ways. And yeah, man, at the end of the day, like I said, any port in a storm.
Yeah, like I said, you want to get to that next level. That's where you got it. You hop on that train. No pun intended. If you have a little night train, it's going to take you to the next station and get you going.
Always.
Yeah, but you can't go wrong with it with any of this stuff. I mean, it's a wide variety of drinks that are out there. I mean, is there anything else that you'll drink? Are you a hard alcohol type person, or do you usually just stick to beer most of the time?
Well, now I stick to mostly beer, because I can roll that buzz a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like it's a little easier to maintain and stay in the zone where I want to get to. I used to be a tequila guy for sure. I worked in the nightclub business for a lot of years, and that was the drink of choice. Was, I guess, Patron was really big at that time, and so everybody. I mean, it probably still is. So, I stopped going to nightclubs a while ago, but yeah, I used to be a tequila guy big time. So I'll have a sip of that every once in a while. My wife drinks wine, so we'll split a bottle every once in a while. But yeah, tend to stick to beer.
Yeah, it's funny as you get older, where your palate navigates to when it comes to drinks. I know a lot of people I talk to will say they don't drink as much beer as they get older, and they'll go into the whiskey or more liquors like that on a more regular basis. But I'm like, people always ask me, they say, hey, what's your usual go-to? I'm like, I'm a beer drinker. 9 times out of 10, I mean, I'll have a regular, like, normal wine, not a bum wine, every now and then if there's if there's a bottle or something around. But it's certainly not something I'm going out to pick up. Like, friends that are always like, oh, yes, Friday night, I got to open up a bottle of wine and relax. I'm like, no, just give me a few beers. I'm good to go.
Yeah, same. I think I delved into the wine world as like collateral damage of working in the restaurant business and stuff like that. So, it comes with the territory in that situation. So
yeah, you just try things out as they come in. They say, hey, you should try out this wine. You're like, all right, well, screw it. I'll do it. Same thing. You go into the liquor store and you got wine samples. It's like, well, I'm not going to say no to free wine. I'll certainly try it out.
At the end of the day, it's all about broadening your horizons, right? Whether that's, Chateau Petrus, which is well out of my price range, or, you're drinking MD 2020.
Exactly. You try it out. You might find something you like. I mean, I know I had some friends who were like, hey, try this wine. And I'm like, this is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty tasty stuff. I have no problem drinking it. Is it something that I'll go out and buy? Maybe not. But I'll certainly drink it. But I'm not always the best one to rate or rank and say, okay, is this drinkable or not drinkable? Said my palate is very unsophisticated. So
yeah, you and I are in the same boat there. Like I've tasted quite a lot, but as my wife would say, she's like, I feel like it's wasted on you. And I'm like, well, you're not wrong, honey.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm like, hey, don't waste the $50 bottle of wine on me. I'm fine with the $10 bottle or even less when it comes to that. If it's a real wine, I'm like, don't waste the good stuff on me. I'm not one that's going to sit here and put in my glass, swirl it around, take in the aroma, give you, there's a hint of whatever in it. I'm just going to drink it and be like, that's not bad. Is it drinkable? Yes. I'll have some more.
Well, there's always time to develop a nuanced palate, I suppose, That's
true. I just say, hey, maybe down the line, you never know what might happen,
Absolutely.
So I know you said you were, back in the day, you were working in the restaurant business, you were working at the nightclubs, and now, I mean, I know you're a comic writer now, screenplay writer. I mean, how did you start getting into that? Was that something you've been doing for a long time, or was it something that just one day kind of the light bulb went off for you?
Well, yeah, I'm going to date myself here, in the 90s, going to movies pretty religiously and stuff like that. And a buddy of mine, we watched Rob Roy with Liam Neeson in it. And, I thought that was the definitive Scottish film because of Tim Roth's portrayal of Cunningham in it. I thought it was just such a nasty villain. And he's like, well, if you want to see a Scottish film, out at the same time was Braveheart. And, that was the film that kind of changed my trajectory. And I saw it, and, what changed my trajectory was the fact that I'm a pretty stoic guy. I always have been, and in watching that movie, I sat down and I wept openly. And that's not me, dude. Or at least it wasn't then, as a much younger man. I was a dude who liked to dust it up and fight. And
right. Yeah. Not
know?
this overly sensitive person that was.
No, not even close. I'm the dude who's going to fight you on the basketball court.
Right.
That's the thing. Like I wasn't that guy. And so, that took me to a place and had an epiphany. And it was like, if someone sat down and wrote that, and it could have such an effect on me as a person where it would pull that emotion out of me, I want to be part of that. Like, no question. I want to be part of that thing because it seemed like such a noble pursuit, right? Like, I think we all quest for that sort of thing in our life, at the end of all of this thing that we're doing here. I think when you get there, you just want to have a noble pursuit. And I think a lot of people, pine for that, whether secretly or not secretly. And so I thought that would be a noble pursuit. Of course, I was extremely young. And so, where do you go? You go to film school. Okay, great. Went to film school. Came out of film school, and, I was in Orlando. I'd grown up in Florida. So went to film school in Florida, directed a short, was writing, won some course directors awards, did the education thing. But to me, it still felt like the writing was very wooden. You know what I mean? Being in my 20s, not really knowing much, not having a lot of life under me and stuff like that. So, but I still knew I wanted to do it. So was bouncing while I was attending film school in Orlando, was bouncing at House of Blues in Orlando. And,
Okay.
Doing my thing, ID in the door, had that job while I was going to film school, moonlighting like most people do in college.
Yeah.
You got to do your thing. And so my boss, when he was there, he's like, I had a knack for IDs. It's just something about, smelling a lie in a person, I guess, and a wayward childhood.
Yeah, you had a good BS meter to
and so
catch people. Yeah.
And my boss, he had come from Las Vegas, and he's like, hey man, you want to make some money, go to Vegas. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds great. Almost to LA, make some money. That sounds great. Coming out of school, let's do that. So I moved to Vegas, got me a job there, ID in the line, and totally got into the life there, man. He was not wrong. The nightclub life in Las Vegas can be extremely seductive. And so I did that for a number of years and kind of just abandoned the writing altogether, abandoned the idea of, the film industry and things like that, because, it was a kind of a bacchanalian, just smorgasbord in Las Vegas. It's everything Las Vegas is and what have you. So got involved in that and was making money hand over fist, spending money hand over fist, as is Vegas. And,
money comes in, it goes right back out.
Just kind of living that life, dude, and was absorbed in it. And it was both an education, which was really great, and it was a way to spend 5 or 6 years that truly helped me evolve as a person. And so that idea of my early 20s being there and being like, you know what, I didn't have a lot of life under me. I didn't have the ability to, pull from this great wealth of knowledge that writers can and should have to really inject that feeling into your writing and stuff like that. So, I one day entered a contest after about 5 years. I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. There's a contest that came up on Facebook of all places, or saw it on social media somewhere. I can't even remember now. It's been so long ago. But there was a contest called the NYC Midnight Contest. And it was a kind of a writing prompt contest, short screenplay sort of thing, where they give you a genre, a subject, and an object. And that spurred me. I was like, okay, here's something I can do, in a very short period of time in between parties and hanging out and doing what I was doing at that time. It piqued my interest, right?
Yeah, just get you back on the horse again, so to speak.
Yeah, it was just a weird kind of, and I guess call it serendipity, if you will. And so, yeah, man, entered the contest. I think I paid $35 or something to get into the contest, and it was going to be fun. And, seemed like a good way to take up 48 hours. So did that, wrote a script, and it finished first place, which was
Oh,
really
nice.
kind of cool. And I was like, oh, huh, and I hadn't written anything in 4 or 5 years at all since I'd graduated. So I was like, wow, that's kind of neat that went. And,
Like, oh wow, didn't expect that, but hey, I'll take it.
yeah, it weirdly, and now I can say that looking back, it, to me, at least at that point, it piqued my interest. I was like, yeah, it represented kind of an evolution, right? Because I had not anticipated doing that well. And so it represented an evolution. So I did a few more of those, did a few more contests, just stuck with it and did that. And, I'd moved out of the nightclub at this point and, got a little more serious, met my then girlfriend, now wife. So moved out of the nightclub business and, moved into the more staid and stable restaurant business. And so kind of did that and wrote some more scripts and, did well, did not so well, kind of got those pieces out. And I was like, oh, well, I feel like I'm ready to tackle a feature, write a feature, what they call the big movie, 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. And like, well, where do you go to do that? Well, look online and see who has programs available that you can get into. Right. And so being so close to LA, it was USC or UCLA, right? Those are the two film schools. So like, okay, well, UCLA has a program. They have an extension program that anybody can attend. And you're going to get a screenwriting certificate and write two scripts during that time and all that. And they have a contest that's involved and all that. So I sat down and I wrote a script called Fever, which was a neo-noir detective film with elements of horror in it. So just about a methamphetamine addicted private detective who just has this life. It's set in New Orleans, and he hallucinates his daughter when he gets really high, and she's dead. She's passed away years prior. So, wrote this really gritty detective noir while I was there at UCLA and entered it into the contest there, and it finished third place in their contest.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I guess I can do this.
I can do this one. I don't want to ask you now, something about writing a script like that. Now, is that your own idea? Like all that just came to you from your own brain, or was that an idea from somebody else that you kind of evolved it and wrote a script about it?
No, that was purely my idea.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to write, I first of all fell in love with New Orleans. Hung out with a dude in film school, Nate Bosley. He lived outside of New Orleans, in Covington, and took him home and after school and hung out with his mom for a few weeks, and it was awesome to have Nate and his mom Karen take me into New Orleans and being there with locals and just being having someone teach you about all the things you couldn't know just by being a tourist, which was really cool. So he grew up there, a buddy of mine, and his mom had lived there forever. So just getting that and seeing all the hidden things that you didn't know and all the way that the city worked and how the gentrification worked and where the dividing lines were in the neighborhoods and all of those things, it just seemed like such a rich environment. And so I always knew I wanted to set a story there, and discovering that place helped me marry it to it. It's a really gritty, lovely, dirty place, and it's just so cool. It's so complicated, and I knew I wanted to set a place there, and it seemed like the natural setting for this sort of thing because it has that air of history and voodoo and magic and the Creole nature of the history and things of that nature. So just a crazy deep place to write about. And so, yeah, I always knew I wanted to write there, developing the character Shaker Freeman for Fever and giving him a mission and all of those things and kind of melding the genres of that film noir, flawed hero detective piece and marrying that with, New Orleans seemed natural. And so, yeah, it came off really well. So.
Yeah, the perfect storm there of having it all come together.
It seemed like it was.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering where, like growing up before you had your like epiphany of, okay, I want to get into screenwriting, movies, things like that. Now, prior to that, did you do any type of writing or anything? Because I know a lot of times people will say that ever since they were really little, they'd always have these ideas and about writing stuff and wanting to be a writer. I mean, did you ever think about that before that, or it was just that one day? I mean, it was, this is what I want to do.
No, it was that one day, without a doubt. I mean, there were inklings there because I wasn't a very good student. I got through high school in athletics for sure, but I was also the kid who was in honors English and like remedial math.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was naturally there as like a point of interest, but I didn't set out saying, yeah, I've been writing stories since I was a young man and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Always interested in comics and film, like from the get-go.
Okay.
So, always interested in those, but never had the idea that I was going to write those things. Or
Right.
that element. I was the Dungeons and Dragons nerd who thought those things were really cool. But then, as I got older and as I got larger, athletics kind of emerged as the thing I was going to do.
Yeah, that took the front burner, and then the other stuff was in the back. It was like, all right, I'm going to focus on the sports and athletics, and then the Dungeons and Dragons and that stuff will just kind of be on the back side of things.
Yeah, you could say I was a hobbyist for sure.
Hey, whatever works, man. You do what you got to do.
Always.
When it comes down to it, and especially that, because I thought it's crazy how you go through the whole circle of everything. You start doing, writing, then you take a break, then all of a sudden you come back into it again, and then where you're at now, you're kind of, that's what you're focused on now fully. I mean, this is what I am now. This is what I do now. From your screenplays, and you started to go into comics more. And after that, I mean, was it wanting to do more on a comic side of things, or what? Because like I said, you wrote a screenplay and a movie, and then you go down the comic road. Was it just you wanting to take that turn yourself?
No, that came as like almost, I want to say a natural evolution, but it was more like a, based on experience. Because as I wrote Fever, and the cool thing about the contest at UCLA is they feature you in the Hollywood Reporter. They have a full page ad. They put where you placed. I finished third. And so you start to get some buzz from Hollywood because obviously UCLA is vetted. Everybody knows who the instructors are. It comes with a certain level of understanding, right? Like you go to UCLA, if UCLA vets your script, it's better than having a reader, right? These are people who work in the industry, know what they're talking about. And so it was a cool thing to kind of leap a phalanx of readers, right? Nobody in Hollywood gets fired for saying no. They get fired for saying yes and not having it turn out, right?
Right.
So having a contest like UCLA already vet your script and then publish the winners in the Hollywood Reporter, which is like the industry rag for Hollywood. So full page ad, there you are, your script's out there. So there was some heat in Hollywood, and I started to get some reads and things like that from, a number of producers. So you got to leap a whole bunch of people just by virtue of that. Producers are, hey, let me look at your script. What is this? All that. So kind of went through that, and eventually, the heat dies down. They're like, oh, film noir's not playing now, stuff like that. Okay, great. So kind of go through that. And then I put it on Inktip, which is, I knew the script was good, obviously. It fared well in contests. I entered it in some other things. It was a notable project at Amazon Studios when they were kind of giving out that distinction and things like that. So I knew the script was really good. And so going through that, it eventually got optioned by a gentleman who runs a company in Hollywood. His name's Justice Bowens. And he had access to Michael Biehn from Terminator.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
All of those things. And so, it's, Michael's hype on this. He wants to be in it. It's kind of cool. I'm like, oh, dude, that's awesome. That's like my 5th grade dream come true.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like,
yeah. Where do I sign up? Yeah.
I couldn't get my name on the dotted line fast enough.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that, at that point in my career, there's no money involved. There's very little. You're just trying to get in. And I'm like, dude, if I go to my deathbed with Michael Biehn being in my movie and I make a little dough, that's great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a dream come true. You don't talk about, oh man, I wish I would have made another 40 grand on that check. You worry about the big things. And so moving into that and developing that, notes for the director, things of this nature, we went through some rewrites and what have you. And then um, like things in Hollywood do, they get shelved. And, I like to say Jennifer Blancbean, who's his wife, got pregnant, and they have an awesome son, and they're Hollywood royalty, so they can shelve their projects and do what they want to do. And that's awesome, man. Like, I just wish they would have made my movie first.
I know. I know, you're so hyped. You're like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, it's not happening. And you're like,
Yeah, that's
damn
okay.
it! It's such a burst in that bubble that you have. You're like, oh, this is gonna be great. Then it's like, gosh, shit, dude.
Sure, dude, but, and that's at the end of the day, that's the big deal. It's the work that matters, and I think that's what the evolution of my career from being a kid who didn't know he wanted to write, to discovering it, to writing, to not writing, to moving into film, and getting a little bit of traction there. It's like, well, what's the next pivot, right? You're always moving. You don't worry about it. You just do the work. And so I was like, well, that wasn't the experience I was looking for, was that piece. And so I'm like, well, what can I do where it doesn't need a whole bunch of people to get done? What can I greenlight myself and make happen? Like, well, I can make a comic book, right? I can find an artist, make a comic book. Anybody can go to any comic convention anytime they want and sell their book. And so I was like, okay, well, let's bet on me. Cool. So I went back to the well. I told you I'd been doing that NYC Midnight Contest for a long time. And so I'd written a script that I think, if I remember correctly, was called 1,000 Bursting Sunflowers. And it had to do with a neo-Japanese samurai and his mutant valet. And basically they were going to go steal a hallucinogenic octopus, right? And so, yeah. So Captain Hans wants to steal this octopus so he can take it and hallucinate more than anybody else on the entire planet. So I wrote that script, and I was like, man, I was really interested in those characters, Hans and this guy called Saigo. So I'm like, man, that's a cool idea. So, but it's also a big budget script. It's not something that Hollywood's ever going to give me money to make. I mean, maybe if I make a couple movies, maybe they will. I can always hope it ascends to Avatar level. But so I write this script, and I fell in love with Hans and Saigo. And so in looking at them, I was like, you know what? I just want to see these guys in the real world. I just want to have a picture drawn of them so that I can see them and what they look like. I'm in love with these guys. So went on to what was called freelance at the time, found an artist, and I was just going to have them draw these two characters, right? Whether it lived on my office wall and I had some cool art to look at, I just wanted to see them in the real world. So I found Dave Mims, who's an exceptional artist, found him and had him draw Hans and Saigo from this script, 1,000 Bursting Sunflowers. And so Dave drew him. And then I was talking to a buddy of mine one day, like months and months later, hung it on my office wall, looked at it. It's great. Talked to my buddy one day, and then it clicked all at once. Oh man, those guys run a whaling ship in the future because it's a post-apocalyptic, ice caps have melted, and boom, it just took off from there. And so I hit up Dave, and I'm like, hey, Dave, you want to make this book called Scrimshaw? And we made a book called Scrimshaw. And we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We took it to a convention all by ourselves, picked it up, 24 pages, printed it ourselves, and then took it to a convention, right? Because that was the mission. After the film kind of failed, we're going to take it to the audience ourselves. That's what we're going to do. So we did that. Shortly thereafter, it got picked up for distribution by Alterna Comics. And so that's pretty cool, And we are currently working on issue 11. We had 10 issues published worldwide, 3 volumes of Scrimshaw, working with Dave and Spike Alakja. He's the letterer. Had the good fortune on volume 3 to work with Ryan Wynn. He's done some work from DC. He's inked Batman and all that. So yeah, it kind of took off from there, which was really cool. It was one of those, I keep going back to serendipity, but it was one of those things where, you create your own luck, right?
That's it. You got to bet on yourself, and and hope it all works out.
Yeah. So we took it to the world, man, and we got 10 issues in, which was really cool. Took me to San Diego Comic-Con, took me to, all over. We've done a ton of cons with it, and, went on hiatus, obviously, during the pandemic. But we're working on issue 11 currently, and, we're moving on from there.
That's good. That's good. I mean, where do you want to focus more on? Do you want to stick in the comic world, or do you want to try to get back into the screenwriting movie aspect of it?
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of the cool things about it is, I mean, obviously, there are a ton of things emerging from the comics industry. Everybody's looking for content. It's kind of the Wild West right now with streaming and things like that.
Right.
Whether it's Netflix or Apple TV or Hulu or any of these places that are popping up. So any of these things that are popping up, dude, it's everybody's looking for IP. So we during our tour with Scrimshaw, we had a great opportunity to get out there and press the flesh and meet people. Cons are just a wealth of creativity and creative people all just hustling the game, right? Like, people show up to a convention and it's some of the most creative people you'll find. There are things being done out there that you just haven't discovered yet, which is crazy, because, we all know, social media, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you're into, it's showing you what to look at, right? It's leading you to where you want to go. But there are people showing up to conventions right now with projects that will knock your socks off, and just it's absolutely crazy. Some of these don't ever get to see the light of day, but one of the cool things is, you get to meet people, you get to build your network. And at one of those conventions, when I lived out west in Las Vegas, we were doing the convention circuit with Scrimshaw, and I ran into a guy at Palm Springs Comic-Con, and his name was Kyle Brummond. He was an artist there. He had a couple of his books there, Justice and Flesh or Blood 1 and 2, which was really cool. And so ran into Kyle. You're kind of checking out what other indie creators are doing and things like that. And, we started seeing each other on the circuit and stuff like that. So a while later, Kyle and I both realized that we lived in Las Vegas, which is kind of cool. Met in Palm Springs. Oh, dude, you live in Vegas? That's cool. And so one of the great things about that is, sometime later, as we kind of saw that each one was dedicated to their craft, you vet people as they go. You see, comics are fly by night for a lot of people.
Yeah. You got to see, are you legit, or are you like, are you just a flash in a pan, just doing this for something quick, hoping for the best, then you move on, or are you really in it for the long haul?
Yeah, man, are you going to put in the work? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's all going back to the work. That's at the end of the day, that's what matters. And people can smell if you care about it. Do you care about it? That's at the end of the day. That's why I got into it, is to care about the work. It's not about the fanfare or the accolades or anything like that. You got to care about the work, dude. And so, Kyle and I just hit each other up one day, like, hey, dude, you want to work on something? And so we had a couple story meetings at Green Valley Ranch Casino out in Las Vegas. We met at the Starbucks there a few times and started hashing things out. And we developed a book called Lead City. And we're like, yeah, man, we'll kick it around. Kyle had his thing going. I had my thing going with Scrimshaw. We're kicking it around. And then the pandemic hit, and I think that was a screeching halt for everybody, right? Excuse me. And so
it's Still Reserve, man. A Still Reserve's hitting you over there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right. I'm right about.
I hear you. See, you getting that gassiness of the.
Dude, I'm at about. I'm gonna put myself. It's still got some nice sweat on. I'm at about 1/3 left, so that's a good
okay.
Spot.
Okay.
So, in meeting Kyle and kicking around Lead City, I mean, like, yeah, we'll work on it, but we both had our own things going, and so the pandemic hit. And everything came to a screeching halt, right? Like, for everyone. Nobody knew what was going on. And so I just hit Kyle up. I'm like, hey, man, now's the time for Lead City. Like, go back to the thing that gives you purpose. When everything else seems upside down, let's go back to the thing that gives us purpose, right? So we started working Lead City. Worked Lead City, worked out the characters. And Lead City is basically, it's a Western, right? We'd kicked the idea around. And then when we got serious about it, it's a Western. And obviously, us both being from Las Vegas, we thought that was a natural fit. And so, we worked it. It's about 8 of the wildest outlaws in the Wild West. and they all come together in this town that's built for a yearly contest in which they all show up. Everybody goes in at the same time, and everybody fights it out. Best man or woman wins. And so I hit Kyle up and I'm like, hey man, now's the time for Lead City. So we launched it on Kickstarter. It did pretty well. We funded it. We launched book 2 about 6 months later. And then Red 5 Comics, which is another publisher, came knocking, which was pretty cool. We're like, oh man, they came and discovered us, which is kind of how Scrimshaw went. But with Lead City, it was a little different because you can't pitch Red 5, they come to you, which is pretty cool. And so,
well, I think that's always what you want is people to, I mean, as much as you want to push out your stuff to people, when somebody comes to you about it and they say, hey, we want to be a part of this, that makes you feel like you're really onto something because somebody's reaching out to you saying they want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And see, I think that was the key element. You hit the nail on the head, Bob. It was one of those things where, I was tired of asking people for a turn. I was tired of asking people for.
Yeah, like, hey, can you read this? Take a look at this. Say, let me know what you think. But if somebody comes to you and says, hey, we saw this, we like it, can we chat? You're like, okay, cool, this is awesome.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's all about the work. It goes back to the work. And it's like, if that's what's driving what you're doing, then you can't go wrong. And so we looked at them. We're like, yeah, let's do that. We'll sign with Red 5. So we completed issues 3 and 4, which was really cool. We signed that deal early last year. Everything in publishing works slow. Not as slow as film, obviously, but definitely
slow. Yeah, it's a little bit quicker, but still, I can imagine with all this stuff, when it comes to anything publishing, or, I mean, while it's not the same as film, it's still very similar with the process to it.
Yeah, and that was cool. So we signed the deal with them, which was great. And, we kept working on the book, which was really cool. And that's the thing. And that's the beauty of doing it yourself, is you're literally allowed to tell the story you want to tell. They came to you at the end of the day. And their only thing was, is there a lot of gratuitous sex? I'm like, nah, we just go with the violence. And they were like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that says something about the world at large.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. No sex, but violence. Hey, fine. Add it. Throw it in there. Okay. More violent. There you go.
Absolutely. And that's basically what it is. And the irony is, as we get there, one of the cool things is, as Lead City was being released from March till the next issue is getting ready to come out this month, the 4th issue in the book from Red 5. One of the cool things is a producer came knocking, and that's all thanks to Red 5 because they have connections in the industry we don't have, right? And so as it kind of comes full circle, is we now have a shopping deal with the Hollywood producer for Lead City. And one of the craziest parts about that, and you go into a general meeting with somebody, and I'm much older than the first deal that I had, and so I'm less awestruck, but still, the producer that we had that general meeting with about Lead City, has directed some of my favorite movies over the last 20, or produced rather, sorry, not directed. He's produced some of my favorite movies over the last 20 years, which is pretty darn cool, And I think one of the coolest things was he put together the pitch deck for it. And as he was reviewing me and selling me on his vision and what he wanted for it, is some of the inspirations I had in writing one or more of the characters in there showed up in the pitch deck. So when those things line up so perfectly, where a producer literally got where you were headed with this and what your inspirations were, it's one of the coolest, most synergistic things that you could ever imagine. And so, yeah, man, it was really cool to have that occur. And so we're looking forward to hopefully landing a Lead City film next year, which would be
nice.
That's on the cake.
Yeah, that'd be great to see your baby there in and on the big screen with the real deal with everything. That would be, like I said, so much of the content these days. There's so many different places where you can distribute the content and getting it out there. And definitely Hollywood needs new stuff. I mean, that's very obvious when you see so many reboots and remakes when it comes to things. So if somebody can get a movie based off of Lead City or something you're doing, and really get behind it and really see the vision that you have for it, I think that's a win-win right there.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, man, there are tons of people doing the most creative things out there whose projects may never see the light of day. But I guess that's the best thing I can offer people is, man, just keep plugging away. Good work, cream rises to the top. And it may seem like there are a phalanx of people there to keep you out, but nobody's out there not looking for good projects.
Exactly. And I saw it, and when you brought up something before about so many people out there that are like doing similar things and just trying to put content out there. And I can't even remember who it was. I saw a tweet somebody had out there this morning who was asking, I think what a lot of us think when you see, okay, how many followers do you have on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever? And you throw out posts of things, and sometimes they get interactions. Other times they just sit there to die. There's no interactions on it. And you're like, okay, well, I have, thousands of followers. Nobody interacts with it. Like, what's the story? And, people support what you're doing, but somebody replied to that tweet and said, there's just so much content out there that it's hard to keep track of everything. When you follow other people, you throw out stuff that you think is great, and it might be great, but just getting people to see it is just, it's like a roll of the dice when it comes to it a lot of times. Just hoping that the right person sees the right post at the right time and then latches onto it. Then like you had where they reach out to you and say, hey, we like this. We want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's just an ocean of content because I feel the same way. I mean, it's that thing that people talk about all the time, especially in the creative arts, is like that imposter syndrome. It's like you're constantly asking yourself, do I even know what I'm doing? It's like, do I know what I'm doing?
Yeah. And then you wake up someday, you're like, should I keep doing this? Should I not do it? It's like, I'm not getting any return on the investment. And when I tell people, even just from the podcast side and, podcast blogging, it's like, if you have fun with it, just keep doing it. I mean, if it's going to hit, it's going to hit. As long as you enjoy it still, stick with it. When it stops being fun, then it's time to wrap it up and move on to something else.
Absolutely, man. It all goes back to the work. It's like when I reached out to you, I was like, hey, I like what Bob does. Like, we don't have that interaction, but I dig what he's got going on over there. And you have to check yourself, and you shouldn't. It's like, oh, should I even reach out? And it's like, well, yeah, dude, like
it's doing,
yeah. It's going to be a yes or a no. There's no harm being ventured. And like you hit the nail on the head. It's like, are you having fun? Would it be cool if I was on the show? Yeah, man, that would be cool. Maybe we'll hit it off. Maybe things will go good. And yeah, dude, it's just getting it out there and deciding what you want to do and how you want to work.
And it's tough. It's a tough process. Like I said, when it comes to creating anything, and what you do here is certainly a lot more labor intensive and more creative than what I do. I mean, I'm not out here writing any scripts or anything like that, or producing any movies. I mean, hey, if somebody wants to do one, I mean, I'm all for it. I have no problem. Everyone wants to do a bum wine movie, hit me up and we can make that happen. But but what's next for? I know you have the Kickstarter out there now for the Lead City. Do you want to talk about that and what else you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. We're funding issues 3 of 4 of Lead City on Kickstarter. Obviously, it's already completed; it's already done. But we felt like issues 1 and 2 were funded by our supporters, the people that we knew, myself and Kyle Brumman, who was the artist on Lead City. And we wanted to bring the rest of the series after it was out from Red 5. We wanted to bring that series to our fans who supported us from the get-go. And we wanted to finish out their series in the format they were used to. And so, yeah, with the good grace of Red 5, they allowed us to go ahead and run that Kickstarter aside of the deal that we had. I mean, there's not big money in comics. I mean, obviously on some levels there are, but for them to write that deal for us to allow us to do that and bring it to the fans that supported us and support our work, that was just a really cool thing for them to allow us to do. And so, yeah, we have a Kickstarter running right now. We're 85% funded right now. We're a little over a week in, which is pretty cool. It's the fastest we've ever made it to that number. You can pick up the whole series 1 through 4. You can pick up the full Red 5 run. We got some cool art on there, some other cool stuff. Kyle's other books, my other books, Scrimshaw, all that stuff is on there. So yeah, you can check it out, Kickstarter.com. Just search Lead City and it's on there. But yeah, it was an opportunity for us to reach the people that supported us from day one, made all of the success that we have had with it, be it Red 5 or, the potential to get produced in Hollywood. It allowed us to really let them feel the love that we have for them and get them the issues in the way that they first supported it, which is really cool. So yeah, we love the support. It's built one reader at a time, and that's what we're committed to. It's the only way you're going to make it in the comics game is supporting your audience and having your audience support you.
And I think the comic world has a really solid audience to it that are very supportive of people that they're fans of, and they will get behind it and back it and pledge something like in a Kickstarter to help support it and say, okay, we feel like we're a part of this and part of the process with it. I know it seems like that more than a lot of different genres, that the comic world is more of like a tight knit community in certain aspects of it.
Oh, absolutely. We have fans that have been with us since we introduced Scrimshaw in 2016 who, they just enjoy the work that I do and will support every single project that I do, which is just awesome, man. It's like, I haven't achieved anything. I've achieved like the smallest measure of success in the business, and just having people who resonate with that work and enjoy the way I write and stuff like that and have them support it is just the coolest thing. It's what keeps me fresh and keeps me wanting to write and keeps me wanting to do the work and stuff like that. It's like that positive feedback. It could be just from a handful of people, but that positive feedback, dude, kind of, renews the well, which is just the coolest thing.
Man, that's what keeps you going, man. As long as people support it and give you that, it's just cheerleaders behind you to say, okay, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. We like it. Don't give up.
Yeah, dude, that's huge. I'd say that to anybody. If you feel strongly enough about the work, like you said, if you're not having fun, cut it out. But as long as you're having fun and people are out there digging it, you can have that one diehard fan who's waving the flag, man, and it can keep you going. So
that's it. That's all it takes.
Never discount that piece.
Yeah. So what else are you working on? Anything else now, or anything else in the works for you in addition to the Lead City?
Yeah, we're always working, man. We got Lead City. Kyle and I have talked about a new book that we're getting ready to start. Like I said, Scrimshaw issue 11 just went to the colorist, a very talented young lady named Ellie Wright. She lives in Ireland. I've been waiting to work with her forever. And so it was really cool to have her come on as the colorist for issue 11. That's with her right now. So hopefully we'll see that over the next couple of months. And I have another book called WinterSpring. Issue 1 is in the can, so to speak, to use film jargon there. But issue 1 is done. It's by a very talented artist out of Australia. His name is Seth Mao, and dude is just super slick. We got that coming up. That'll be launching on Kickstarter here in the next few months. So yeah, we just always keep working, And then I've been kicking around a screenplay that I want to write as well. So I might delve back into that over the next year as well.
Hey man, you keep them busy over there. That's for sure. There's no shortage of projects that you have going on over there. So it keeps the creative juices flowing, as they say.
Yeah, man. I call it the affliction.
Yeah.
The writing is the affliction. It's funny. Yeah. My wife said to me a number of years ago, she's like, "You're not a very nice person when you're not writing." And it's like, well, I think that was a message. So
yeah. All right, so keep writing more. All right, fine. All right, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
All right, pass me another Steel Reserve. All right, let's do it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we could obviously go down the list of writers who imbibe, but that would probably be a whole other show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was maybe next time when we reconvene next time. Yeah. We'll go down that rabbit hole and see where that takes us.
We can cover that list for sure.
Well, hey Eric, man, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. Chat about the wonders of the world of cheap booze and also screenwriting, comics, everything that goes into that. I mean, tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, all that good stuff. Throw out those cheap plugs.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. You can find me on my website at ericborden.com. That's Eric Borden, ericborden.com. And then you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at 100proofEB. So not hard to find. That'll keep you up on what I got going on. Website's the best place to go, though. Join my mailing list, be on there. Check out all my past and present projects and updates on conventions I'm attending and things like that. So ericborden.com.
Awesome, man. Be looking forward to seeing what's next for you, and fingers crossed that everything works out, and maybe we can see another maybe a feature film in the works in the future. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, it works out for you, and nobody backs out this time around and crushes your hope there. But definitely. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Good chatting with you. We'll be keeping tabs with you in the future of everything. I mean, I know you're a busy man, so it'll be hard to keep up with.
Yeah, we just keep working, Bob. I appreciate you having me on the show, man. Like I said, I've been a fan for a long time. I admire what you're doing. And, like I said, connecting with something near and dear to my heart, which is, inexpensive libations.
That's it. The cheap booze, man. The best of the worst of cheap booze is what we do here at bumwinebob.com and on Bum with Bobcat. He is Mr. Eric Borden. I am Bumwine Bob. And until next time, cheers.
I need a beer.